Okay. Well, as I was telling everyone in the Zoom, um, feel free to eat, drink, whatever. If there are interruptions, come back to this later or don't. It's whatever is within your bandwidth, your cycle, because that's what we'll be talking about today, which is all about cycling and connecting that to our womb, as well as the different rhythms within life as well, because not everyone has a womb, but identifies as femme and or woman. So I just want to point that out and also take out the thing that's in between my teeth. That is important to consider even within this conversation, and also just recognizing that within my own experiences too, I'm straight woman, and so I am not like the say all end all type of thing. But I just want to make that aware that all of us that identify with a womb that doesn't have one, bleeds or doesn't bleed, like this talk is also for you. So, that being said, I'm gonna start over and introduce myself. Hi, my name is Vivian, and I identify as an herbalist, as a multicultural herbalist, or multicultural, but also within the family line as well. I found out that my great grandmother, my great aunt, was one in the community who took care of people within the pueblito. And so kind of skipped a couple of generations, and then I pop up like a seedling. I'm like, what's this? So um, really happy that that is within our memories, within our ancestry. My first plant relationship was mint, thanks to mi abuelito Alfonso, whose birthday was yesterday, actually. So he was a proud Gemini. Um, and because of him, I always looked at plants. I was more of an observer in that regard. So always looking to plants and to nature. And I've always had this curiosity of like, what's next? What do I learn? Which also gives a hint as to my human design. But yeah, so the herbalism part of me has always been in the family. And then I went to college for something else. And then I was like, wait, I want to be an herbalist instead. So that happened. Um, but through my experiences, music has woven a very important part within my life as well. And so music too kind of plays within nature as well, where it's like, you hear the birds, you hear the bees, the bugs, everything like that, right? Um, so death doula work, I particularly was looking for a program that was led by Indigenous, and or just I would have loved it to come from my culture specifically. Jalisco is where my family is from. Um, and I was fortunate enough to find teachers in Canada actually, and this was done virtually, but I really loved the program because it was done intentionally and with a lot of good resources, and it wasn't like a okay, here you go, then you're done type of thing. It was like, no, we're gonna read through this, learn this. So I am someone who, though I am a first generation, firstborn Mexican American, I don't necessarily see myself as American. So I have a hard time even identifying myself as such because culturally I come from such a rich background and a rich family that I'm like, there's more to me than just American. And even with all this shit that's going on right now, I'm like, it's kind of hard to be okay identifying as that. But another story for another time. So when it comes to wombs and cycling, and it also comes to play within the cycles within our life and the different stories that are part of us and what that means to hold those many different parts of us that make the whole version of us. So just like just taking the womb aside to give space to those that do not have one, there's still ways of finding cycles within nature. Just a very simple observation of like, we're in spring, and then we're in summer, and then we're in fall, and then we're in winter. And understanding what each part brings to yourself, regardless of if you are bleeding or not, or if you're grieving or not. It's just a simple, like, where are we within the seasons? So, wintertime, we were eating a lot, all that rich, yummy goodness, and like all that chocolatito and pan and tamales. Like, ooh, I love that season. But then we're coming into spring and it's like, everything's starting to feel light, and we're like, oh, but I'm like all bogged down from all that stuff. So we're reaching for more bitter kind of foods, stuff to wake up our digestion. So really taking into mind like the foods that we're consuming, the things that we are putting inside of our bodies and how that is affecting us. And also recognizing that like there's also seasons within those moments too, where it's like, yeah, I'm eating well, but also I'm eating a donut. Like also I'm eating like my yummy sugary things, but it's understanding where we are within those seasons. So springtime, things are waking up. We're still kind of bundling ourselves up a little bit more, but we're like showing off a little bit more skin. We're like, ooh, we're coming out. Like we're those little plants that are showing up, right? Um, and then summer comes along and it's a little bit more warmer. In Colorado, it's variable. We don't really know what season we're getting into when we first walk out the door. Um, so, summertime, what does that look like for you cyclically? Maybe it looks like you're hanging out with more people, you are connecting with more individuals, more networking, high energy. So there's also that balance too, right? With every good thing, there's also that opposing factor where it's like, okay, I'm giving so much of myself, so much of myself. How am I giving back to myself though at the same time? So I'm not just like on high, but also balancing. So it's okay to have FOMO. I also don't like FOMO, but like it's okay to have FOMO, right? So understanding what that season looks like to us. So summer's coming in now. What herbs are we looking to mix within our diets? Like it's more lighter food, but also we don't want to stop giving warmth to the body because even right now it's windy and it's a little bit cold. Like my body was warm a minute ago, but now I'm like, oh, I need a sarape or something. Like, so it's that balance. And then, just thinking ahead, we're gonna come into fall and it's slowing down, and trusting that that slowdown doesn't mean the end all be all, right? Because you can't just be going at 100 miles an hour and then expect yourself to continue doing that into fall because come winter, you're gonna fall on your face and be like, why am I burnt out? Well, ma'am, did you slow down? So, you know, um, again, understanding like what fall looks like for you within your own personal cycle. Um, as the leaves are starting to shed from the trees to prepare for winter, take that too within your own cycle, if you are bleeding, if that is available to you, like what part are you in within that fall as well? So it's what I'm trying to get at is that there's also those multitudes within the different cycles. It's being observant enough of your own self and where your seasons are so that you are able to give yourself that support and access for help, even to like bring in your community. What does community look like for you? And who can you lean on those moments where you need a little bit extra support? So it's all connected, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. It's like me introducing myself and trying to introduce my teachers and like where I've come from also is parallel to like where I was within my own womb health and support and how I was giving to my community and how I was giving to myself and just like seeing that change and how it's seasons, and within those seasons there are all these mini cycles, and you're just trying to figure out how to support yourself through all of those little parts, but also giving yourself that chance to seek joy and to seek ease. Like it doesn't have to be like a routine after routine, but just something where you're able to just kind of shift with the season. Like, oh, like starting to warm up again. I'm starting to get more busy, but I'm also bleeding. How do I nurture myself in those moments? How do I give that sustenance so that I can continue moving within this capitalistic background that's asking me to go, 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 but still give back to myself at the same time? So spring, summer, fall, and winter, which then coincides with our actual cycle, which you've probably spoken about many times, Erica. So the spring being our follicular, was that what I said? Exactly. And then summer being ovulation, because if you think about it, the sun is out and you're just like, ooh, I'm showing off. And when you're ovulating, you're like, I am such a baddie. So same kind of energy, right? And then you get into your luteal fall and you're just like, don't even touch me, don't talk to me. You can come to me with snacks, but nothing else, right? Um, and then when you're menstruating, it's winter time. Like you're bunkered down, you ain't moving for shit. I hope you're not. But again, capitalist society, we're forced to move and we're forced to push. I'll also just add a little bit of more insight on me. Like, I'm a gardener, and when I'm bleeding, like, that hurts. Like, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to lift shit because it hurts. So, again, like, just another example of like a mini cycle, like, of course, we can't always take off work and we can't always like ask for extra support, but it's just knowing, being as close to observant within your own self, within your own knowing of just like where you're at within your cycle. And even just like, even if you don't have that cycle, understanding that like you'll still get little like intuitive hints here and there because it's your body. You know yourself so well that you're like, something's off, right? So it's being humble enough and strong enough and brave enough to ask for that help and to just connect with people on that level and just being like, hey, this is where I'm at. I need the support. I'd really appreciate it. So just kind of understanding all of that within just like the seasons, menstrual cycle, and how that's connected to, which then leads me to the next thing, which is bringing in tarot to this. So it's like, you're probably thinking like, where does tarot come into this, Vivian? And I'm like,
Why I'm here, Vivian.
I know I had to set it up. So, you know, I'm just going to talk about the first couple of cards that came to my mind because it's always the ones where people are like, oh, is that a bad thing? Like, what do I do with this? I'm like, girl, like, I need you to take a couple of deep breaths and come to Jesus with me. But it's, we have the death card, the tower, um, the devil even, and then other cards that would call in transitions to like the chariot, the six of swords. Um, these are all cards that call to some kind of transition, that call to some kind of like awareness within yourself again, where it's like when it comes to death, right? Depending on the context and your situation too, it's like, what are we releasing? What has to be let go? So if we think about our cycles, if we think about the seasons, like that's winter time, that's you shedding, that's like bleeding, like and it's not always going to feel great. And that's also like some of the sentiment behind that card, even where it's like, it has to be let go and it's not going to be an easy process, but it's you again having that courage and that willingness to say like, okay, I have to release this. And also, what kind of support do I need to give to myself, right? I'm bleeding out. Like, what do I need to give back to myself? It's winter time. I'm cold. What do I need, right? It's all connected within that sense. The tower card, people get it and I'm like, it's gonna happen even if you don't want it to happen. Um, and so I guess within that card, you would, I don't know, maybe that's like that transition point between the luteal and menstruation where it's like you're on that tipping, like you don't want it, but it's like it's gonna happen anyway. So again, what kind of support can you give yourself? Where are you at within that? That's just like a quick little snapshot on tarot. My practice has evolved. Now it's a very different form of ritual for me, where it's like, even if I am reading for someone, it's a ritual within itself where it's like, what am I feeding myself before I do this? What crystals am I bringing? Are there any plants that want to come with me? So I like to bring in the elements simply because I see it within nature. I always see it within like the things that my family does. Like even at the graveyards, you have sand, flowers, smoke. It's like it's everywhere, right? Um, so the elements always come with me. And tarot's just become a thing where it's like building my own intuition and my own understanding of what these cards mean, because it's part study, but it's also part intuition, because you can teach yourself this if you really want to. And there's so much out there for you to read and do. But then it's also then that intuitive side as well, because not this one card won't always mean the same thing for you, Erica, or for you, Elizabeth. It might just be that you are more of the sentiment part and maybe you are more of the like other part, or it could just be something completely else based on everything else around it. So I always like to tell people that it's never an end all be all, because it's all, to me at least, it's all about the energy. And I like to empower those that sit with me at these readings, where it's like you already know a lot of these answers, but you just need someone to hold a mirror up and show you that you are already there, and maybe give you a slight nudge and maybe a little like, come on, like it's not gonna be nice, but we're gonna do it. But again, I always tell people that they have free will at the end of the day. So anything I do and or say can change, because you are the creator of your life. So the cards are connected to zodiac signs. But what I did want to talk a little bit about that at least is the understandings within our own charts and understanding the transitions that happen within our charts based on what is happening within the season as well, which is all connected. Like right now, we're in Gemini season, right? So it's all air energy. So you could say that like fast thoughts, fast mouths are very much
That makes perfect sense right now for me. I'm like, Gemini? I didn't know Gemini was air. Ugh, okay.
right. So it's like, so just even like just at a basic level, right? Like I don't want to like bog us too far down, because that's more work for like a more professional astrologer, but just like, it's summertime, right? So there's this heat coming in, but we're also in Gemini season right now. And so it's like So we have like this hot energy, but also it's this air. So it's like making your own deductions of like what might come up for you, even like just relating within your own chart. For example, myself, Gemini lands, sorry, in my 12th house. And so I'm over here like, great, more self-healing and looking into myself, like, like we're not done. But I get to look forward to Cancer season, which is next, which is in my first house. And I'm just like, oh boy, I'm like, that is straight up ovulation era for me because I'm over here like, I got me because it's in my first house. So, um, yeah, I'm just like, just trying to show you these like little connections, so that if you were to look at your own birth chart, you can be like, wow, like when the season's like this, I feel like this and like that. That's kind of just like a small little snapshot that I wanted to do with that. But I do want to end with the death portion of it. We are going through so many different cycles within ourselves that it's almost hard to understand like where we fit in or like how we can connect to others and how we can like encompass everything without bogging ourselves down at the end of the day because like we are the most like important people within our lives, right? Like we are like the most beautiful flowers, the most beautiful seeds, like and we are doing such a great job. But sometimes these cycles are just like maybe all of your cycles all of a sudden are like all on like the death part where it's like I'm menstruating, I'm cold, it's winter, like fuck this shit, right? Death, right? It's not a one size fits all. Death came to me when I was young and I'm lost my great grandmother. So that was my first like big death for me because I was like, what do you mean she's gone? Um, and even my own stuff of like, I should have gone to see her. Like, it's like she knew. And so it was like a little cycle within myself of trying to be kinder to myself and to not be so like as if there were like fangs clawing down on me and being like, no, but you could have been better. And I'm over here like, I could have, but also I'm not going to hurt myself more by treating myself like this because that is not what she would have wanted and that is not what I deserve, right? Death always teaches you something new about yourself, and a lot of times it really points to these deep caves of love that sometimes hurt so much because you're like, oh, like this person had to leave or this part had to be let go within my life so that I could understand this and actually hold this as some kind of truth for myself. I think that's where like grief and love touch in at times where it's like you had to release in order to be in this different place and so that they could also learn the things that they had to learn so that you both are walking a path that is not meant to meet again, but you're both doing your own stuff, right? Death within our own cycles, that's menstruation. So it's also like leading up to that, we do such a great job, or at least we try to feed ourselves the ways that each part of our cycle asks us to, like we prepare ourselves for that. So it's also asking ourselves, like, how do we prepare for our death then? How do we do that? And some people are like, well, I live every day as if it's my last day. And that's a perfectly great example because that is true. That's one way that you are preparing for your death. For some people, it's having a death plan and having that ready so that if that day were to come unexpectedly, everyone is like, oh, Joe did such a great job and left us everything in line. Like, oh, I miss him so much, but bless him, right? And that's a great way to prepare for death. It could also look like very detailed itinerary of like, this is the music that's going to be played, this is the color of my casket, and this is where it's going to be at. Death is always everywhere. It's just that we don't make that connection a lot of the time, but we see it within nature. Every time we have to say goodbye to all the beautiful flowers and the leaves, like, you have no idea how much I like look forward to spring every year because I'm like, oh, the lilacs are coming. I'm like, oh my God. And it's just this like longing because I'm like, I haven't seen it for so long. And I'm like, oh my God, I want this. And that longing is also felt too in the people that have passed. It's like, and unfortunately, it's not a cycle that just repeats itself like those lilacs, right? It's like, wow, like I miss this person so much, and I just have to wait at this point. And I don't even know what I'm going to see either, right? I'll just stop at that and see if anyone has any questions or comments.
I had a question on herbs. Do you work with specific herbs at different phases of your cycle? And if so, what herbs do you connect with the most?
Yes, I do. And I'm happy to only take a small segment on herbs because I know that everyone was like, ooh, maybe Vivian will give us some herb suggestions. Yes and no. Um, and I only say this because it's, again, all dependent on you and your cycle, and especially with like any medications you may be on or just like eating in general. So I just want to like preface that first and foremost. And also mention, just because we are being recorded, I am not a doctor and this is not medical advice. So just putting that out there as well. Um, but I personally, I have very much enjoyed nettle. Nettle has been one of those herbs for me that is very nourishing, has supported me through so many markets and so many things where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, so definitely nettle. Um, Raspberry leaf is also really, really nice as a herb for the womb. It is astringent, so it means it'll just kind of like pull things a little bit. Um, Also, I would say yarrow is great for like I use it more as like body tension relief support, just because when I think of cramps, I just immediately think of like the body tensing. And yarrow is an herb that I have grown, that I have had a good relationship with. So I always tend to find that just a little bit goes a long way when it comes with that. Um, I'm not saying that like cramp bark doesn't have a time or place for also supporting cramps, but I have not used cramp bark as much as I do yarrow. Um, what else? Because I have my own womb blend that I make, and so I'm just kind of thinking about the herbs in there just to like kind of isolate them more than anything, because I want people to walk away with this idea of like creating those relationships with herbs one-on-one instead of just being like, all of these together will do great, because there is a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of, but just thinking about the constitutes of the herb and like what it does. So one herb could be drying and one herb could be heat inducing. So it could be that you just start mixing all these herbs together, and then all of a sudden you might have like a lot of heat. And maybe you're someone that doesn't need as much heat because you're more on the opposite spectrum. So you might irritate yourself. So just kind of keeping that in mind. I would also say cinnamon, cinnamon, like canela was always on the stove for me and my family. It would be like, you're sick, canela. You have pains, canela. You need something, canela. And I'm like, canela's like the Windex of right?
Mm.
Um, And the reason why I love canela is that it gives you that warmth, when we're menstruating, we need our room to be warm. And just in general, we need to be warm. So that cinnamon will help bring in that warmth to the body. And what I love about it is that when people think warmth, they're like, oh, so it's drying, right? Yes and no. It's actually a little moisturizing too. So that's why I love to use cinnamon sometimes within my tea blends because I'm like, it's warming, a little drying, but it's also a little hydrating too. So that's one herb where it's like, hell yeah, does many things at once. I mean, a lot of them do that, but um, what else? What else? Um, hibiscus. I like to put hibiscus actually within my womb blend. And that is because it's a great blood mover. And to me, my reasoning behind it was like, okay, well, I don't need any of this like old blood to be sitting stagnant within my own womb. So I'm like, I'm going to put a little bit of hibiscus in here and see what happens. And I mean, the taste is great, first and foremost, but also, you're giving yourself back those antioxidants as well. So you're giving yourself a little bit more nourishment with that idea too of like moving that blood through the system. But yeah, I'm just gonna stop there and see if you have any questions on that.
I have a question about the moon and how the moon affects our cycle. And, for a while, my period was coming with the full moon, but now, like, literally, it's switched the past couple of cycles, or this last cycle, and my period came with the new moon. So, is there anything, like, is there a correlation between that, or do you believe that there is? Spill the tea.
Okay. Yes and no. And I say this because when we say that, like, oh, I'm a white witch or I'm a red witch and blah, 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 because I ovulate with the new moon and I bleed with the full, it really alienates the individuals who aren't able to bleed and who don't have wombs. And so I like to think of it more as like you, again, being aware of the times that you do bleed under what moon. So, from my own examples, there was a period where I was always bleeding on either like Capricorn or an Aquarius moon. And I was like, huh, interesting. Because a lot of times, like, either the qualities of those signs were coming through for me in that life, or like in regards to like the house within my birth chart, I was like, okay, like this is interesting. So I would say that like, and I know like people are gonna be like, you're wrong, Viv, but I'm like, that's fine, I don't care. I feel like if you do ever connect in that way where you do you know, bleed or ovulate on the new and then vice versa on the full and whatnot, I think you might feel a little bit more inclined with what is going on within that cycle. But I would also even say that even if you're not on a new or full moon type of cycle, but the times that you do bleed, I have noticed that within myself at least that I'm more intuitive when I'm shedding, which makes a lot of sense because if we think about it, we're releasing not just the lining, but we're also shedding any beliefs or shedding any relationships or just like things that like it just always tends to correlate within our life. And we're just like, oh, why is it so much harder than it has to be? um, but yeah, it's so yeah, yes and no. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you, thank you. I want to know what your favorite womb connection ritual is.
I'm just gonna share it. We're in a safe space, right? We're in a safe space. I would say food is definitely like that one connection for me because I have such insane cravings, like, and I know what phase I'm in when the craving hits. I'm just like, oh, yep, here we go again. And so for me, nutrition is like really, really important because I am not a rich human yet. It will happen, but I'm not there yet. And so I try to make all my meals at home as nutritious and delicious as possible because I'm just like, hay comida en casa. You can eat that. Um, so that's one of them. I would say another one is when I am bleeding, I will sometimes feel the blood within my fingers, and it's a very powerful thing for me because it's like my way of connecting to something that is normally looked down upon, that has brought shame to me in the past. And so for me, it's like, no, I see this. This is mine, and I'm all in this. Um, and then if it coincides with plant watering day, I will dilute it and give it to a different plant every time just to kind of be like that like little connection with my plants in a sense where it's like I am you, you are me, and I will one day become you type of things.
Wow, that's deep.
Cyclical. I'm all about cycles, but yeah.
The questions, you say you offer your blood to the earth.
Hmm.
How do you collect it, or how does that process work?
So I use a cup. Um, that's just that brings me ease. And then I have a jar that I like keep off to the side essentially. And every time I release it, I'll put it in there and then I'll just dilute it with a little bit of water, just enough because I don't want it to be like super thick because I don't think the plant would be happy if I just have a big blob just sitting on it. I always, when I think about plants, it's always like I see a silent person and they're just looking at me and they're very much like looking. And I just know sometimes where I'm like, I don't think they're okay with this. Or even with roses, like, sorry, I'm moving off topic, but anyways, so yeah, in a separate jar, and I make sure that it's like it's my jar, and if I ever have like people coming over or something, I hide that jar. I'm like, this jar does not exist. You never saw this jar. Because I worry. I'm like, I don't want someone to be like, oh, I just threw this away. And I'm like, no. So yeah, so that's what I do.
Okay. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Won't keep Elizabeth any longer. I could talk about this all night. Viv, stay on the call. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I'll send the recording via email along with Vivian's contact information. She mentioned earlier she has her own shop. It's called Magia Botanica, and all of her products are fantastic. I'm a huge fan of her womb tea, although I don't know if you were creating a new blend, right? The last time we talked about this.
Yeah, I'm thinking of going crazy. I'm thinking of doing a tea for every phase of your cycle. With my stuff though, it does take a minute because I do want to try it out on myself at least, and then a couple of like close friends that will not just be like, "Oh my God, this was great." I'm like, "No, give me the constructive criticism." Um, but yeah, so in the process, Erica will definitely be the first one to find out, and then the world. So
All right. Thank you so much, Vivian. You're the best. Elizabeth,
thank
thank you for
you.
joining us
Yeah,
live.
thank you, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you both.
Buenas noches. Have a good
Buenas noches. Good
Bye,
night.
thank you so much. You'll take care.